There is a moment when a woman decides how safe she feels with you, and it happens long before you touch her. Most men never realize they failed that moment until it's already too late. I'm going to tell you something quietly, the way women only admit truths to each other. The gesture that melts a woman isn't loud, flashy, or aggressive. It isn't dominance, money, or clever lines. It's not trying to impress her, fix her, or win her approval. In fact, the men who try hardest almost always miss it. What actually reaches a woman's nervous system is subtle, almost invisible, and rooted in something far older than modern dating advice. It's the way you hold space without demanding anything back. Women are constantly scanning for emotional safety, not because they are weak, but because their bodies are wired to detect threat before logic ever gets involved. When a man rushes, explains himself too much, or tries to prove his worth, her system reads pressure. Pressure shuts attraction down. The manly gesture she responds to is restraint with presence. You don't chase the moment.
You allow it to breathe. Here's what that looks like in real life.
She's speaking, maybe about something small, maybe something personal. Most men interrupt, advise, joke, or redirect the conversation back to themselves. The rare man doesn't do any of that. He listens fully, eyes calm, shoulders relaxed, body open. He doesn't nod frantically or lean in like he's starving for approval. He lets silence exist without feeling it. That silence is powerful. Silence tells her, I am not afraid of what you feel. And that's where her guard begins to fall. This is not passive, it's deeply masculine. It takes strength to remain grounded when a woman's emotions are present. Many men panic internally and try to control the interaction. The man who melts her does the opposite. He stays steady. He doesn't need to rescue her feelings or dominate them. He trusts himself enough to let her unfold. There's another layer most men never consider. Women feel energy before words. If your inner state is anxious, needy, or performative, she feels it instantly. The gesture works only when it's real, when you pause before responding, when you choose calm over urgency, when your actions say, I'm here, but I don't need anything from you to be okay. This activates something ancient in her. Her body relaxes, her voice softens. She becomes more open without realizing why. She feels seen without being exposed, desired without being hunted, safe without being bored. That combination is rare, and rarity creates attraction. Most men are loud with their masculinity. Very few are quiet with it. But quiet confidence speaks directly to a woman's subconscious. It tells her you are stable, self-contained, and emotionally capable. That's why this gesture melts her. It bypasses her defenses entirely. Before you move your hands, your words, or your plans, master this presence without pressure, attention without attachment, strength without force. Almost nobody uses it because almost nobody can stay this centered. Now listen carefully because this is where most men get confused. They hear presence and think it means being agreeable, soft, or overly gentle. That's not what melts a woman. What melts her is grounded leadership of emotion. It's the way you respond when things aren't smooth, when there's tension, when she's unsure, when she tests. Yes, tests you without even knowing she's doing it. Women test emotional stability instinctively, not to manipulate you, but to answer one question their body needs answered. Can this man remain solid when my emotions move? When you get defensive, explain yourself or withdraw. Her attraction doesn't disappear because you were wrong. It disappears because your center collapsed. The manly gesture she rarely encounters is emotional containment without control. Imagine she challenges you lightly. A comment, a tease, a moment of doubt. Most men react instantly. They justify, they joke it away, they try to win back approval. The man who melts her doesn't rush. He pauses, he lets the moment land. Then he responds simply, calmly, without emotional charge. That pause tells her more than any words ever could. It says, I don't need to fight this moment, I can hold it. This is why women feel more drawn to men who are slower in their movements, speech, and decisions. Slowness signals confidence. Urgency signals insecurity. When you slow down, you unconsciously invite her to slow down too. Her breathing changes, her shoulders drop, her nervous system mirrors yours. That's chemistry at a biological level, not a romantic fantasy. Here's something women rarely admit. Being emotionally held feels more intimate than being touched. When a man can sit with her uncertainty without trying to erase it, she feels understood, without being analyzed. She doesn't feel like a problem to solve. She feels like a human being allowed to exist fully. That permission is intoxicating. And here's the paradox most men miss. This gesture doesn't make you less masculine. It amplifies it. True masculine energy isn't reactive, it's responsive. It doesn't chase emotion, it contains it. It doesn't collapse under pressure. It becomes steadier. That steadiness creates polarity. And polarity is where attraction lives. You don't have to announce this energy. You don't explain it. You demonstrate it through micro behaviors, not checking your phone when she's talking, not rushing to fill silence, not overreacting to emotional shifts. You stay present even when things feel uncertain, especially then. Women are surrounded by men who want something from them: attention, validation, reassurance, sex, approval. The man who wants nothing in that moment yet remains fully engaged stands out instantly. He becomes memorable without trying, magnetic without effort. And when she senses this, something shifts. She begins to lean in emotionally. She shares more. She softens, not because you asked, but because her body decided you were safe enough to open to. That's the power of this gesture. It doesn't force connection, it allows it. Most men never learn this because it requires inner work, not tricks. You can't fake calm, you have to build it. But once you do, you'll notice something strange. Women respond differently. Conversations deepen. Attraction lasts longer, and you no longer feel like you're performing. You're simply being. This is the gesture almost nobody uses. And once you embody it, you'll never need to chase again. Here's where this goes even deeper, and where most men either grow or fall back into old patterns. The manly gesture that melts a woman is not just how you act with her, but how you live without her. Women are incredibly sensitive to whether a man's center comes from within or from external validation. If your confidence depends on her response, her mood, or her approval, she feels it instantly, and attraction quietly drains away. What melts her is when your life already has weight, direction, purpose. Not ambition you talk about, but gravity she can feel. A man who is rooted in his own path doesn't cling emotionally, he invites. An invitation feels radically different from pursuit. Most men unknowingly broadcast emotional hunger. They overext, they overexplain, they overinvest too early. Not because they're bad men, but because they were never taught how powerful self-containment is. When your happiness, discipline, and identity exist independently of her, you become a place she can rest emotionally, not a space she has to manage. Think about this carefully. A woman relaxes when she realizes she is not responsible for your emotional state. The moment she senses that her attention is optional, not required for your stability, something inside her shifts. She stops guarding, she stops evaluating, she starts feeling. This is why the manly gesture often shows up when you don't reach for her, when you don't interrupt her silence with reassurance seeking, when you don't ask, "Are we okay?" after every emotional wave. When you trust the connection enough to let it breathe. That trust signals maturity, and maturity is deeply attractive. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many men confuse intensity with depth. They believe constant contact equals connection, but depth comes from rhythm, from space, from knowing when to engage fully and when to step back without fear. The man who melts her understands this intuitively. He's not afraid of distance because he's not afraid of himself. And when you speak from grounded clarity, not emotional urgency. You say less but mean more. Your words land because they're not padded with insecurity. You don't narrate your value, you live it. That quiet authority is rare, and rarity commands attention. Women often describe this as feeling drawn without knowing why. That's because their subconscious is responding to coherence. Your actions, energy, and boundaries align. There's no desperation leaking through the cracks, no hidden agenda, just presence and direction. This doesn't mean emotional coldness, it means emotional regulation. You still feel deeply, you still care, but you don't let emotions hijack your behavior. When conflict arises, you don't escalate. When attraction builds, you don't rush. You remain steady, and steadiness creates trust. Here's something powerful. Women open faster to men who don't need them to open. When she realizes you're not waiting for her vulnerability to validate your worth, she offers it freely because now it's her choice, not a response to pressure. Most men never experience this version of attraction. They live in cycles of effort and burnout. But the man who embodies this gesture experiences something different. Women stay curious. They lean in emotionally. They invest not because you demanded it, because your grounded presence made it safe. And once a woman feels safe and intrigued at the same time, attraction stops being something you chase and becomes something she brings to you. Now, understand this: when a woman truly begins to melt, it's not because you finally did something right. It's because you stopped doing things out of fear: fear of losing her, fear of silence, fear of not being enough. The manly gesture reaches its full power the moment you allow uncertainty to exist without trying to control the outcome. Women live with uncertainty constantly: emotional shifts, social pressure, unspoken expectations. When a man enters her life and tries to eliminate uncertainty, she feels managed. But when a man can stand calmly inside uncertainty, she feels protected. That's a crucial distinction almost nobody talks about. This shows up most clearly when plans change, emotions fluctuate, or expectations aren't met. Most men tighten up. They become rigid, disappointed, or passive aggressive. The man who melts her stays flexible without becoming indifferent. He adapts without resentment. He doesn't punish her emotionally for being human. That emotional generosity is rare, and rarity creates value. There's a quiet confidence in a man who doesn't need every interaction to go his way, who doesn't keep score, who doesn't mentally tally effort versus reward. Women feel this instantly. They feel when a man is giving from abundance instead of negotiating for affection. And when they feel abundance, they relax into attraction. Here's something subtle but powerful. When you don't chase emotional reassurance, you give her permission to miss you. You give her space to reflect. Desire needs room to echo. Constant availability flattens emotional texture, but steadiness with distance creates depth. This is why the manly gesture often happens after the interaction. You leave her emotional state better than you found it: lighter, calmer, clearer, without claiming credit. She associates that emotional relief with you, not consciously, biologically. And once that association forms, she seeks it again. Women don't bond through logic, they bond through emotional memory. How she felt after being with you matters more than what you said while you were there. The man who melts her understands this intuitively. He doesn't perform. He regulates the emotional environment simply by being centered. Another truth most men resist: leadership isn't control, it's direction without force. When you suggest plans calmly, accept changes gracefully, and hold boundaries without anger, she feels guided rather than dominated. That balance is intoxicating. It satisfies both safety and attraction at once. And when conflict appears, as it always does, the gesture becomes even more powerful. You don't raise your voice. You don't shut down. You don't chase resolution just to soothe your discomfort. You listen. You respond. You stay anchored. Even if emotions rise, you don't get pulled into chaos. That steadiness rewires her perception of men entirely. Many women have never experienced a man who doesn't emotionally abandon himself under pressure. When she realizes you won't disappear, explode, or collapse, something profound happens. Her trust deepens, her femininity softens, she stops bracing for impact. This is where attraction turns into attachment, but healthy attachment, not dependence. She chooses you not because she needs you, but because she feels better being herself around you. And here's the final piece most men overlook: this gesture doesn't exhaust you. It energizes you because you're no longer acting. You're aligned. You're not chasing approval. You're expressing stability. When a woman feels that stability consistently, her defenses don't just lower, they dissolve. And when they dissolve, attraction becomes effortless, mutual, and deeply rooted. This is where everything comes together and where the truth becomes unavoidable. The manly gesture that melts a woman is not a trick you turn on. It's a way of being that changes how every interaction feels. By now, you understand it's not about dominance, charm, or emotional distance. It's about inner solidity. And here's the final revelation: women don't fall for what you do, they fall for what you are consistent in. Consistency is what makes her surrender emotionally. Not routine, not predictability, but emotional reliability. When your presence feels the same, whether she's calm or overwhelmed, close or distant, happy or uncertain, her nervous system finally rests. That rest is what creates deep attraction. Because for the first time, she doesn't feel like she has to manage the emotional environment alone. Most men show strength only when things are going well. The man who melts her show strength when things are unclear, when there's no guarantee, when there's no immediate reward. He doesn't withdraw warmth to regain control. He doesn't overgive to secure attachment. He stays himself. And this is where masculine confidence reaches its highest form. Non-attachment to outcome. You care, but you're not desperate. You desire, but you're not dependent. You're open, but not unguarded. That balance is extremely rare, and rarity is magnetic. Here's something important to understand. When a woman senses that you would be okay whether she stays or leaves, she paradoxically wants to stay. Not because she's afraid to lose you, but because she respects you. Respect is the foundation attraction cannot survive without. Once respect is gone, no amount of affection saves the connection. This gesture teaches her something quietly, that she can come closer without losing herself, that she can be emotional without overwhelming you, that she can trust your strength without being controlled by it. And when a woman feels that kind of freedom, she bonds deeply. You'll notice a shift when you embody this. Women begin to mirror your calm. Conversations slow down. Eye contact lingers. Emotional intimacy grows without force. You stop questioning where you stand because your center no longer depends on external validation. And ironically, that's when validation shows up naturally. This isn't about being mysterious, it's about being rooted. Mystery fades, rootedness endures. A rooted man doesn't need to prove his worth. His boundaries are quiet. His confidence is unspoken. His masculinity is felt, not announced. And this is why almost nobody uses this gesture, because it requires self-mastery. It requires facing your own fears of abandonment, rejection, and insignificance, and choosing stability anyway. Most men never do that work, but the ones who do experience relationships very differently. Women don't feel pressured around them. They feel invited. They don't feel evaluated. They feel accepted. They don't feel rushed. They feel safe. And safety, combined with polarity, creates a kind of attraction that doesn't burn out. It deepens. So here's the question only you can answer honestly. When a woman pulls back emotionally, do you stay grounded, or do you chase, withdraw, or react? Comment your answer below using this simple equation. Pressure chakra attraction chuts presence attraction. If this message resonated with you, like the video, subscribe for more insights most men never hear, and share this with a friend who needs to master his inner strength, not just his outer image.